This is the final testing of 41747, which is a Pioneer SX-1250. We like to keep the lights down a little bit so we can see the oscilloscope, but we're just going to show the beauty of this right here. This item has been rebuilt, had no major problems. Typical what we see on something. It hasn't been maintained along the last 10 or 20 years, but this item has been rebuilt from the output transistors all the way to the front. Tuners aligned, and a beautiful machine. So what we're going to do is, through the auxiliary input on the back, we're going to feed in a 400 cycle sine wave into the auxiliary inputs, which will allow us to view the audio on, there we go, on this device here, which is a dual trace oscilloscope. And just to help with the demonstration, let's get the sync off so we can actually see the traces. And when we view this, we're going to have the lights off, so the screen is not saturated. You can turn this down a little bit right now. I think it's too high. Yeah, that's better. That's better. That's better. Okay. And we're going to actually be able to hear the audio. It's going to be 400 cycle sine wave at low volume. As we turn it up, it's going to distort the microphone on this camera, going to hurt my ears and blow out our speakers. So when we start to turn the volume up, we're going to switch over to what's called dummy loads. Dummy loads stress the amplifiers same as if we had speakers, but it converts the audio energy into heat instead and allows high power testing. We're only going to go over to FM. We have a very elementary FM antenna in the shop. It's just a folded dipole. So reception is not going to be stellar as it would be with an outdoor antenna. But this item has been aligned, and both tuners have been aligned. And it's a beautiful machine, performs great, and it's a classic. So we're going to back this out, and then we're going to turn it on. The general design on these receivers and amplifiers is to have an approximate 5-second turn-on delay. That allows the output stages to bias up before we connect the speakers. And yes, and this, oh God, it's so beautiful. There we go. Boom. Look at that brilliance. It's so big it doesn't even fit in the camera. So that 5 seconds is up. You can probably hear the 400 cycle sine wave. And I'm going to zero in on the scope so we can do some things like do a frequency response test. Hopefully I'm going to turn the volume down just a little bit. Hang on a second. As we're viewing this to the left of the oscilloscope, there are also two horizontal lines. The upper line is in parallel with the upper trace on the oscilloscope. The lower line is in parallel with the lower trace on the oscilloscope. So the upper is left, lower is right. That is actually measuring in decibels. That way we don't have to look at the oscilloscope for decibel measurements. And that's going to be very instrumental as I show the flat frequency response of this across the audio spectrum. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is start at the bottom of the audio spectrum and step up our audio source. And if you watch the two horizontal bars, left and right channel, you'll see that this is going to be flat across the entire audio spectrum. You may not be able to hear, but this is why we're using oscilloscope, because the frequency response of the microphone on this camera is limited. But the scope certainly is not. Okay, so let's go down to the bottom of the audio spectrum here. And again, keep an eye on these lines here. we're down about, I don't know, 20 or 30 hertz. I'm just going to step this up, and hopefully you can see. Yeah, there you go. We'll step this up. You'll see the period of the scope changing, but the lines remain at the same amplitude level, which is what we want. That is a flat frequency response. We don't want any dips or peaks as we're going through this. We want a flat frequency response across the entire audio spectrum. Soon we will be into the range of hearing range of dogs and bats. Flat across the entire audio spectrum. Okay, I'm going to bring us back to where we started, which is about 400 hertz. That's probably 400 hertz. Now what I'm going to do is get some more gain here. And switching to dummy loads, we're going to drive this up. And what we want to do is watch the top and the bottom of the sine waves should be smooth. As soon as they start to flatten out, that's full power right there. I don't like that. That's full power. We leave that there for too long, we're going to have problems. But we're looking for symmetry. The top and the bottom of the sine waves are symmetrical, and that's a function of what's called DC, offset voltage. And this item is a beautiful machine. Now we're going to go to FM, and I got too much gain there, overdriving the scope. Now we're going to go to FM, and see what we can get with our very simple antenna that's in the shop. FM is, let's back this out so we can watch the display. There we go. There's a beautiful machine. So let's start at the low end and go over to FM. The low end is typically college stations, weak stations. Let's see what we can get. Look at this, barely moving the signal meter, but it's in stereo.
The way he talks about women, the way he talks about immigrants. What he said to me was, look, I care about... Baby, baby,
I'll get down on my knees for you. Good stuff.
baby, you done lost your morning light. I can't worry about the things outside of that. I'm apparently imagine that our responsibility as people in office and as citizens is to all...
There's some good classical stations here. I don't know what that is. That's a false signal. We call that a birdie.
Share and more. Don't miss your once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be in the room when it happens. It's so close, you just might see yourself.
Exchange. After promo agreement term, regular rates apply. Subscriptions required to access Netflix only.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I want to point something out. The astute, how do I do this? Nah. Hang on, it's my first day here. The astute person might say, well, your single meter's pegging, but how come you don't have stereo? This is 97.9, which is mono. That's the ESPN radio. They don't broadcast in stereo. Okay?
On today's program,
how can you answer that question like that? What is my opinion of his performance?
Hi, my name is Scott Fiddler, produce sales manager at Big Red Foods. Our relationships that we have with our friends. We're out of business on Howard Park.
We're quote unquote the common man, and here he is speaking to first responders. The Massacre on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Look at that, it even picks up Spain. Alright, just to be serious, I should have counted those stations, but we probably picked up a couple of dozen stations with just a folded dipole inside the shop. An external antenna is going to do much better. Much better would be just astounding. But it would be my privilege to restore SX-1250s every day of my life. Just although they're getting a little heavy for me. Beautiful looking machine, beautiful performing machine, and a lot of work's been done to it, and it should provide great performance for many years to come. That is the end of this demonstration.